running up the score. Jerry.
He just sucks.
He's not good.
let's just put it out on the table. He's not a good quarterback.
Tom.
Oh, way to join a team that already won a title.
Kevin.
Ben is unique. These guys are unique. They're championship runs. I mean, this one's unique.
Let's hope some people still get thrown at and, get hit in baseball.
Keep it interesting.
Yeah, right?
I can't take this guy serious right now.
I dare you to watch it and tweet us. Tell us, you know what? This is a hell of a sport.
Where's this been all my life?
The New York Jets you know what they need to do with their second round pick? They need to just start taking it and lighting it up on fire.
Where's that quarter? Let me look at that one more time.
This is Running Up the Score. And it starts now.
All right, it's time to run up the score. Running up the score with Jerry Napoleonello, 605-562-7085. Press 5 to be heard live. We are live on Zeno Live and Periscope. Brought to you by Yellfy Sports App. You can download the app, Yellfy, Yellfy. Make sure you follow me at Jerry RUTS Sports and Tom at Tom RUTS Sports, as well as when Kevin gets his, it will be Kevin RUTS Sports. It's a great app. You can follow us. Make sure you do follow us. But remember to join in with the conversation here through the next hour by calling in at 605-562-7085 or tweet us at RUTS Sports. You could also follow us on Instagram at RUTS Sports and like our Facebook page as well. So, let me situate this camera here. For some reason it wasn't working, but we are back live. Week 1 is not technically in the books because we got 2 games tonight, which I always hate the first week with the 2 Monday night games. The one game's at 10 o'clock. Who's going to watch a football game at 10 o'clock on the Eastern time? It's just, it's never a good game anyway, though.
I'm watching it.
Of course you are.
It's a great game. What are you talking about?
But I'm saying it's never a good game.
Talking about San Diego Chargers going to Denver to take on the Broncos. Absolutely a great game.
What are we going to get from the Denver Broncos, though?
I don't know, man. I got a lot of guys on my fantasy team in that game. That's the only reason I'm watching.
Well, you have, it seems as though Trevor Simeon's probably going to start, right? So,
unfortunately,
we'll see. Do we see Brock Osweiler tonight? Are we going to have a Houston? And by the way, we did talk about the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson, and when we thought he was going to come in, I don't think either one of us thought it was going to be in the third quarter of the first game of the season.
I did. Tom Savage is
he's terrible.
Yeah, he's an awful quarterback. For the Houston Texans, that was an embarrassment. And, you think with everything that's gone on in Houston and, the players, might be having that extra, step in their game, to try to play for the people of Houston. J.J. Watt even talked about, just giving the fans something to, take their minds off everything else that's gone on, even if it's just for 3 hours. And what the Houston Texans brought in the first, 30 minutes of that game was a disgrace. Calais Campbell had his way with that offensive line. Tom Savage looked lost for, I was going to say 90% going into this show, but no, it was about 100%. What was that?
They like all these websites. They automatically have a video that automatically plays. You don't even have to click play. I'm trying to get to obviously the biggest headline of week 1 was the injuries, but you could go back to what you were talking about with the Jacksonville Jaguars, or you can say Saxonville.
Yeah, they had their day right there. They just had their number. Calais Campbell worth every penny. And between you and me, I watched Muhammad Wilkerson. He definitely got fatter. So, I mean, you could see the kind of player that Calais Campbell is after getting paid and the type of player that Muhammad Wilkerson is after getting paid. So, for Calais Campbell and the Jacksonville Jaguars, that Jaguar defense is very, very good. It's very intimidating. They are not an easy win by any regard. Everyone was talking about how bad Blake Bortles was. Blake Bortles did a great job of managing that game. That's a tough Houston defense. For a lot of people, Jacksonville Jaguars defense was one of the highest scoring defenses in fantasy football this week, and a lot of people didn't trust it because of the Blake Bortles experiment and what Blake Bortles would be able to, would he put his defense in a bad situation? Absolutely did the complete opposite. Blake Bortles showed a lot in the first game of the season, considering all the criticism he was getting during the preseason and just the offseason in general, because he had an awful year last year.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I thought it was a great week. A lot of good games. Was it me or the 1 o'clock games went pretty quick? I mean, I felt like usually you get a few 1 o'clock games that kind of go into the 4 o'clock games, but we didn't really have that this week. And it was actually nice. Also, we had a great Sunday night football game. Maybe not so great for some of the Giant fans, obviously, but I had a great week.
Let's talk about that game for a second.
You want to go right into the Sunday night game?
Absolutely.
Let's go right into it.
Because I know how you are. All right, I know what you do.
What I do.
Right. You are a Cowboy lover and a Giant hater. It is a known fact.
100%.
And, for the New York Giants, it was the same problem I had been talking about on this show since the preseason.
I mean, we called it.
Where the New York Giants' offensive line was bad.
Terrible.
Really bad. And, I was I was watching the game with a couple of friends. And, I actually had a friend at one point tell me that, he thinks, he always thought the offensive line for the New York Giants was bad. He didn't think it was this bad. And I said to him in response, I said, well, you're right. I didn't think they were this bad either. I knew they were this bad.
So did I.
They were, it was something that they had a problem with last year, could not run the football at all. And during the offseason, I didn't see one acquisition. And, I understand sometimes offensive line is a standpoint where maybe you need years together with a certain group to have some chemistry and to, feed off what the other players are doing on that offensive line. But the New York Giants offensive line just looked lost in all regards. Paul Perkins is a very good running back. Do not be fooled. No, do not be fooled. The guy was a great running back in college. He's a very talented individual. But there's no running back in the NFL that is running on that offensive line. And yes, Ezekiel Elliott, maybe he makes a couple of those 3 and 2 yard gains that the Giants got last night, 4 or 5 yard gains, but you're not effective in any way with any running back you have with that offensive line. And because they couldn't run the ball, yet again, Eli Manning was the lone target in that game.
All right, well, the biggest thing is, is Eli Manning done?
How about this? How about this question first? Because Eli Manning isn't done. Eli Manning can go to a team with a good offensive line and be successful. And let me tell you, if the New York Giants wanted to, they could probably get rid of him right now, and teams would come calling left and right.
Oh, so you're going hot takes
Oh, he would be a great pickup for another team if the New York Giants found themselves out of it and they wanted to go in a different direction from here on out, which could be a possibility. But for the New York
Giants... How about this? What if, and this just actually just came to me because I never thought about the Giants ever trading Eli Manning until you just said it 2 seconds ago. What if the Houston Texans came calling and said, listen, we'll trade you Deshaun Watson for Eli Manning? Do you make that trade?
I think it's an intriguing possibility for the New York Giants, considering their number 2 is Geno Smith right now. But from the standpoint of the Houston Texans, Eli Manning will not be more successful than Deshaun Watson will be right now.
You know what?
That offensive line has been just as bad as the New York Giants from day one, and the best person I can get on this show right now to let you know about that is Lamar Miller.
Yeah.
Lamar Miller was an incredible running back for the Miami Dolphins. And, I mean, this guy did it all. with a guy like Tannehill who is not spreading the field whatsoever. Lamar Miller saw 8 in the box a lot of times with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
And he did a great job in every aspect. This man comes to the Houston Texans, and he is nowhere to be found. And everyone wants to put it on the guy, just like everyone wants to put it on Eli Manning. You don't put it on Eli Manning. You don't put it on Lamar Miller. You put it up on the guys up front. That is the most important position in football. I will go about that, and I will live and die saying it, that the offensive line is the most important position in football. It is the biggest need. Now, the New York, let's go into this for a second. The New York Jets are going to be awful.
Yes.
They're going to have the number 1 overall pick. There's almost no doubt in my mind. I thought San Francisco didn't look as bad as I thought they were going to be. I think they're going to find a way to win some games, especially playing teams like...
There's one team, though, that could be, if not worse than the Jets, I think can be just as bad. And that's the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, yeah, but I mean...
That team...
It's a big... does Andrew Luck come back for that team? We're not sure yet.
But even that...
But even so,
they're another team with no offensive line.
That's actually a good point that you bring that out there because, the Colts have a very bad offensive line as well. Now, the Jets, the Colts... Now, the Colts aren't going to take Sam Darnold. So that's why this really doesn't come into play a little bit. But let's say Sam Darnold or, and I mean, I'm not a fan of this guy Rosen
Josh
at UCLA.
Rosen, yeah.
I'm not a fan. He made a great comeback, a lot of good throws.
Yeah, that was a good game.
But I saw a lot of bad throws in that game, too, from him.
And you know what? It's funny you say that because I felt the same way. He came back. Everybody was all, high and mighty on Josh Rosen. But when I was watching the game, I didn't see anything special. I don't think I think
the leadership. I think the leadership qualities that's a big thing to have for a quarterback. You need to show that you're the leader in a huddle every day when you go into the huddle. And come on, Dak Prescott. Does Dak Prescott show that he's a leader in the huddle? Of course, 100%. And it's an important thing to have for a quarterback. But for me as a New York Jet fan, it's Sam Darnold or nothing. I'm not a fan. I mean, this is a very deep quarterback class coming in next year potentially. You got Lamar Jackson, who's an intriguing option, but the running quarterback has never worked in the NFL. It really just hasn't. You've seen it a couple of times with Mariota. You see it a couple of times with Russell Wilson. And these guys are very smart. They do a great job at, making sure not to get contact. But this is the NFL, and guys can get hurt, and it can be a big problem. Your starting quarterback is your franchise quarterback. So you have to protect him at all regards.
I never liked the mobile quarterback. I don't like it at all.
I don't think it works.
I don't think it works.
It doesn't.
But there is something to a quarterback that can extend plays. Someone that, he's not looking to run the ball, but he can elude a pass rush.
Of course.
Especially, it's a perfect example with the New York Jets, the New York Giants. The New York Giants with Eli Manning. Eli Manning is cement feet. He's in that pocket. He's not going anywhere. That pocket closes. He gets happy feet. Like you see it perfectly with Eli Manning.
But
he gets happy feet.
That's his game, and a lot of the best quarterbacks have feet like that as well. I mean, I'm not going to include Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers.
Peyton Manning was like that.
Peyton Manning was like that. Tom Brady is like that, and Tom Brady has found ways to have success for years, and so is Eli Manning because the accuracy is, when you have your mechanics as a quarterback well plated, you're one of the most accurate quarterbacks in football, you'll be fine. And the New York Giants have rode that for a long time. The New England Patriots have run it for an even longer time. And let's talk about the Colts. Since we talked about them, they ran it for a long time with Peyton Manning. But for me, what I was trying to say was that Sam Darnold for the New York Jets is the guy that they want.
Yeah.
Now, let's say he goes back to school. The New York Jets have a god-awful offensive line as well. It's not that good at all. They, obviously they had to dump a lot of guys. Guys like Mangold are on their way out. DeBrickashaw Ferguson on their way out. They're gone. These guys are gone. You have no more Pro Bowlers on that offensive line. There's a couple of left tackles I've been looking at in college football. Just off the top of my head, I can go with a couple of names. But the offensive line depth this year, I mean, I looked at the who was it? I think it was, oh, my God, Ohio State. And you look at the size of every offensive lineman on that team. There's a lot of good ones coming up.
Yeah.
And for teams that want, the Jets and getting Sam Darnold, let's say Sam Darnold goes back to school. Is it the worst thing in the world for the New York Jets to grab the best left tackle in all of college football with the first overall pick in the draft? And like I said, maybe the Colts do beat out the Jets for the number 1 overall pick. That is the Colts slam dunk pick right there.
Yeah.
Is taking the best offensive lineman in that draft. And it would be a foolish move to take any other thing.
Yeah.
And obviously defense is an important thing in the NFL. And, the Jets, I feel like, are a team that have taken plenty of first-round picks on defensive players.
The nucleus for a successful team is the trenches. It's always going to be the defensive line and the offensive line.
Well, also,
it's always like that. You basically start from within and you spread out. I mean, I can't tell you. And the perfect example is the New York Giants when they were winning their 2 Super Bowls in the 4 years. When you looked at that one team, especially the first Super Bowl team, they were a solid defense. Their defensive.
They could run the football.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They had Brandon Jacobs.
Why can you run the football? Because
you have an offensive line
that is winning the battle of the trenches.
Yeah, and the thing with the Giants that year was they had such a great defensive line. I mean, they got after Tom Brady 100% in that Super Bowl. The biggest thing was, after the next couple of years, after their second Super Bowl, that's when you started to see that defensive line start to fall apart. They didn't get the rushing, the edge rushing that they did when they were winning the Super Bowls. And then you started to see the holes that they had in the secondary. I mean, the secondary for the Giants, when they won their Super Bowls, everybody thought that they were all great. They really weren't that great. But when a quarterback has a second in the pocket to look through his transgression, just all of his, wide receivers, I mean, it's impossible. So it makes the secondary look better. And it's the same thing for the offensive line. The offensive line, if you have a good offensive line, that makes the wide receivers look better. It makes the quarterback look better. It makes the running back look better. And it's almost like symmetry. Basically, you cut it down the line. Offensive line makes everything better to the outside. Defensive line makes everything better to the outside. It's almost perfect.
I had a friend ask me. I don't mean to interrupt you. Real quick.
No, go ahead.
I had a friend ask me last night. He goes, "Where is Brandon Marshall?" And I said to him immediately, I said, "Brandon Marshall is running routes. He is running deep routes right now for the New York Giants. But Eli Manning doesn't have enough time to even put anything on a ball that's going to get 30, 40 yards down the field."
I know.
And I had explained this to him that he doesn't have time, for the point that he took so much contact in that game.
Yeah.
And he must have thrown about 4 or 5 screen passes in the first half alone. I didn't see a ball travel more than 10 yards in the first half. And that wasn't on Eli Manning. That wasn't on the coaching and their decision-making. That's on the offensive line not getting this guy pressure. Not getting this guy protection. The pressure just coming nonstop from the Dallas Cowboys. And you could credit the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, the defense played very well. But for the Dallas Cowboys, and this is what I wanted to get into with you to start the show, impressive win, but that should have been a rout.
It should have been a rout.
That game should have been 35-0. The New York Giants had nothing going on the offense side of the ball. And Dallas played a great game. I thought Dak Prescott did manage the game well. Dallas found a way to win that game nice and easily. Do not get me wrong. But they played a clean game. No no turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles. Clean offensive game from that standpoint. But that game should have been a rout from the get-go. The Dallas Cowboys are going to have tougher matchups than the New York Giants are going to be a very decent team at best. Their defense is going to keep them in games, just like the New York Jets defense will keep them in games. But if the Giants don't fix up this offensive line problem,
that's the problem.
They're in for a long, long season. And this was a team that was looking at Super Bowl.
At halftime last night, the Cowboys had 46 plays to the Giants' 49 yards. Like that's how lopsided that first half was.
Yet it was 13-0.
Well, I'm going to get into this, and this is what I did not like from the Cowboys. I mean, did we forget? Did Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan forget that Ezekiel Elliott was not suspended?
They used
How-
him a lot.
How do
They
you
defin-
not?
they
How do
definitely
you?
used them.
How do you not run the ball at least once inside the 5? How do you throw the ball 3 straight times inside the 5? I don't understand it. And just even
That's the kind of coaching that's going to get you in trouble, though.
But that's what I'm
we
saying.
try to talk about.
I thought we learned this from the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Well, hopefully.
When you have one of the best running backs in the league, run the ball. There's not. How many times do you see Ezekiel Elliott get tackled for a loss?
I'll tell you one thing. I mean, there's a lot of hatred on the New York Giants, and there could be a lot of like downplaying right now on how they played, whatever, offensively. On the defensive front of the New York Giants, and I say this in fantasy purposes for you fantasy owners as well. If you have a running back that is facing the New York Giants, that is a benching situation. The Giants have. There's one thing the New York Giants have done very well all season long that I guarantee you the Cowboys knew about.
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. No matter who you play, you have to try to run the football.
absolutely.
You have to, because if you don't run the football, you're going to get Tom Brady in the Super Bowl against the New York Giants,
Yeah.
where you try to become a one-dimensional team,
It's
and it gets
lopsided.
you nowhere because it makes it so easy for a defensive lineman to go for a sack knowing you're going to throw the football as opposed to having the idea of the threat of running the football. This is why teams want to get to a 3rd and 1, a 4th and 1, a 3rd and 2. And the worst thing a team can ever be in is on a 3rd and 5 and more. Because if there's no threat of running the football, you're leaving your quarterback out to dry. And that's why you're seeing a lot of empty sets these days from a lot of teams, because you're looking at teams trying to spread the defense.
Yeah.
Because when you spread the defense, instead of these linebackers lined up in, looking to pass
In the
rush,
box, yeah.
In the box, exactly, they have to line up with a receiver.
Yeah.
Or you have to go to a different formation. A lot of these teams do it now. Teams like New England, teams like the Packers, like when they're in situations like that, it's the right thing to do.
One of the teams that did that so well for so long was the New Orleans Saints.
Absolutely.
They were a team that basically started. I mean,
They would start games like that.
Them in New England, those two teams were one of the starting teams that basically changed the game on dumping it off to your running back. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that you ever saw out of the Saints. I mean, that's what made them so good when they had Darren Sproles, when they had Reggie Bush, that they had a guy that could just go out to the flat, dump it off to him, and you have a linebacker on a running back.
And you're not looking to even try to get a touchdown out of that play. You're looking to
No.
get 7-8 yards because now you got the 2nd and 2. And that's when teams become
when you
more
run.
threatening.
Yeah.
And not even when you run, that's
But
when
the
you
play action?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's just so
absolutely.
much that goes into it that, that's why running the football is so effective in this league. If you can get 6 or 7 yards on first down and then another 2 or 3 on second, when a
Yeah.
team knows you're running the football and you're still getting this yardage, then
You got a special offense.
you got an offense that's very much a threat
Yeah.
all game long, and you're going to have a big problem unless you stop that running game. And for the Giants, the one thing they've been able to do all of last year since getting all these acquisitions and all of this year, and they talked about him last night. Chris Collinsworth was talking about him.
Yeah.
Damon Harrison, right? Is that
Yeah, snacks.
yeah, the former Jet.
Yep.
The guy is a run-stuffing machine. And when you were able to stop the run, and Ezekiel Elliott had a decent game because he's Ezekiel Elliott and he's very good, but the New York Giants stop a lot of running games. And it's a big reason why the Giants were successful last year.
Yeah.
Because their offensive line was just as bad last year, and they still found ways to win games.
I mean, there's just a lot of teams that could be very, very good, but their offensive line is not good. I mean,
It's a big reason why the Tennessee Titans yesterday were a threat to be an AFC
Absolutely.
contender. The Oakland Raiders the same way. These guys have good offensive lines.
And then you go on the other side of it.
I'm
Seattle
not a believer
Seahawks.
that Derek Carr is one of the best quarterbacks in football.
No.
I'm not a believer that Marcus Mariota is one of the best quarterbacks in football. But if you have the protection, you can be an effective quarterback in this
Yeah.
league. Mark Sanchez.
I mean, that's a perfect example.
This
I
guy,
mean-
this guy was not throwing it all over the place, putting up huge numbers and wins. But I didn't see Derek Carr throw for 400 yards yesterday in the win.
No.
Because he didn't need to.
He doesn't need to, especially now getting Marshawn Lynch.
And I'll be honest, aside from 2 games last year, Derek Carr didn't need to get any of these crazy passing games in order to win a football game.
No.
That's a team winning that game out in Oakland.
Yeah.
And Oakland did it the right way. They've been able to rebuild since day one, and,
I mean, you're looking at it, though, like when you look at the top offensive lines in the league, you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys, you're looking at the Tennessee Titans, you're looking at the Oakland Raiders. These are 3 teams that are solid teams, but they're solid up front, and that's the reason why they're solid teams. Then you look at like the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks, as good of a team that they can be, they don't have an offensive line, and no matter how mobile Russell Wilson is, that dude was running for his life against the Packers, and the Packers are a team like their defensive line at least is okay. I mean, I'm not gonna put them up there with the best.
I wouldn't even give it an okay.
But that's
I mean, it's on the worst half of the spectrum there.
And that's what I'm saying. It just for them to get to Russell Wilson, that's a problem for the Seahawks. We're gonna see that for the upcoming weeks. Obviously,
the Seahawks are going to have tough games all year long.
The Green Bay Packers are another team.
The Packers are going to have tough games too. But I mean,
these are teams that have offensive line problems.
The Seahawks revamped that. I mean, I don't think Green Bay's offensive line is as bad as Aaron Rodgers made them look.
No,
because Aaron Rodgers had to move a lot in that game.
Yeah,
but the Seattle Seahawks have a very good front line.
Oh, absolutely.
And adding Sheldon Richardson to it is just depth. I mean, you're switching out Michael Bennett with Sheldon Richardson, and I mean, this is just fresh legs at all times. Yeah. I mean, good luck sustaining a drive against that. The Seattle Seahawks defense is no question still one of the best in the league. Their offensive line is the one reason why this team's not going to go and win 13 games this year.
Yeah,
they'll be a 10-6, 11-5 at most, and they'll be lucky to win that division.
Oh, absolutely.
The Rams looked very, very good in every standpoint. Even though the Colts in their own right don't have any sort of a defensive line as well. The Colts have a lot of problems right now.
I think Jared Goff is going to have a breakout year this year.
I think Jared Goff had plenty of time in that game.
He
That's
did.
what I think. And honestly,
you know what? And their defense is a very solid defense.
Let's see how Jared Goff does against like a Denver front. Or,
I mean,
Houston,
100%.
even a Houston front. I mean, that's what made Blake Bortles' game so impressive to me, is how well he was able to manage against a very good front.
Oh, absolutely.
And Leonard Fournette, 100 yards on that defense.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
I mean, that Jacksonville team, if they figured out what
I'll tell you, they were a good bet in the beginning of the season.
Oh, absolutely.
To take that division. And let me tell you, up until yesterday, no one had that team winning the division. People had Tennessee. People had Houston. And the Colts were kind of away because of the whole Andrew Luck situation.
I think the Houston Texans really threw off everybody.
I think they were the team I expected them to be. Tom Savage is not a good
but that's why I said I thought Deshaun Watson was going to end up starting at least by week 3. That's what I thought definitely was going to be his game. I did not think the third quarter of week 1 was going to be the game, but overall, their defense didn't even look that good. I don't know what to think about the Houston Texans. I'm going to chalk it up to just rusty week 1. We'll see what happens, but
no,
I don't think they're going to be. Yeah, they really do. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bill O'Brien's on the hot seat this year. I would not be surprised.
And I'll tell you, from a Jet fan perspective,
pick him up.
No problem for the New York Jets. The New York Jets want to grab that man out of Houston.
Well, that's another thing that I wanted to when we were talking about the Jets. My thing, and talking about the quarterback situation, the one thing that the Jets have not done well in a very long time is bringing along a quarterback. They are a very bad organization when it's helping a quarterback flourish.
If you give Bill O'Brien the New York Jets with the first overall pick in the draft, a.k.a. Sam Darnold, and if he doesn't get declared,
trust me.
Go draft an offensive lineman, be terrible for 1 year. Bill O'Brien will still be in town with $90 million of
Perfect
cap room.
Perfect example, all right? Christian Hackenberg, when he was at Penn State, under Bill O'Brien, he had an NFL, basically something that looked really well, a bright NFL career year. Then Bill O'Brien.
You hear me laugh there? You hear me
No,
giggle a little
I trust me, I would laugh too.
But that's what Bill O'Brien
But
does.
Bill O'Brien did that. Then Bill O'Brien leaves to go to Houston, and Hackenberg turns into a hack. And now he's with the Jets, and he's still a hack.
And Bill O'Brien has been winning with. I mean, if you looked at, you're going to be able to see on.
I mean, look what he did getting them to the playoffs.
I just want to tell the people, you're going to see the face I have right now. Bill O'Brien's quarterbacks that he's won this division with in an Andrew Luck era is just the most impressive thing you can put on tape. I mean, yeah, J.J. Watt and Vince Wilfork for a couple of years and Brian Cushing when he does stay healthy beyond 3 games into the season.
Yeah.
This guy finds ways to win with quarterbacks that, it's you feel for the guy.
Oh, absolutely.
You really just feel for him. And, hey, if they want to fire him, be my guest. The New York Jets have become calling within a week.
Well, we're going to get into quick baseball in a little bit. But I have another head coach that I don't think is going to be seeing week 5 with his current team. And we'll definitely get into that. And, of course, we got some fantasy coming up. It was a good week 1. More to come.
Yeah, I wish I had Allen Robinson. I wish I didn't draft Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
All Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Hey, this is Jerry Napoleonello, host of Running Up the Score. We are live once every week at 7 p.m. Eastern, where we hit on all the top headlines in the world of sports. You can also find us on Stitcher, iTunes, and those of you that like the visual aspect, check us out on YouTube. Running Up the Score. We run up the score on Sports Radio.
Cyberstation USA is the future of radio. Get your business into the online future at the world's largest internet radio station. From banner placement on our homepage to any of our broadcaster stages, commercials on our video player, audio spots on any of our shows, or at the beginning of any of our on-demand broadcasts. Cyberstation USA offers competitive rates with a worldwide reach. A fully integrated one-stop shop social media broadcast platform. For more information, please contact our sales department at cameo@cyberstationusa.com.
Hey, this is Tom Gallipani, co-host of Running Up the Score. Remember to catch us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RUTS Sports. Also be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube, where you will get the full Running Up the Score experience. Running Up the Score. We run up the score on Sports Radio.
Now back to Running Up the Score. Here's Jerry and Kevin.
I screamed at the top of my lungs, but my voice couldn't take this home. You're proud of.
All right, Jerry, there's so much to get into this half hour between baseball talk and fantasy football talk. But first, call in at 605-562-7085. Press 5 to be heard live. You can also follow and tweet us at RUTS Sports, as well as follow us on Instagram at RUTS Sports. Check out our website, www.rutsports.weebly.com. First,
Well,
let's get into...
Before we even get into fantasy real quick, I thought this was pretty funny. You obviously thought it was funny as well. We were talking about it in our pre-show meeting. This Tony Romo made his debut in the broadcast booth, and it was an interesting one, and not in a bad way. I thought he was very insightful. He's a smart football player, and he always has been. And he really showed it off in the booth with Jim Nantz yesterday during the Titans-Oakland Raiders game And here's a few cuts of basically what he was, some of the plays that he was calling out and everything like this. And this is Tony Romo in his debut.
All right, Tony, we've been practicing since May. We've been all over the place, and now it's time for real.
I'm excited to be here. Told you earlier, I got butterflies. It's opening day. This ball's going to Lynch.
Blue ID! That's it!
Here's Lynch, right side, and jammed and pushed back.
Jim, I got $5. This is a run to the left.
I got to pay now as it's Henry. Stepping out. Got a good block by Josh Klein. What did you see there?
I've seen football in the NFL for 14 years. Here comes a cross dog blitz with two of these guys.
Pass.
What's better? Hey, kill! Kill!
Kill. Here comes a run to the left.
That's it!
It is a run to the left, and just off left guard, it's Lynch taking the pile with him.
Here comes the nickel off the slide here.
Pass is thrown away. What do you see here, Tony?
Well, I thought they were going to run the ball to the right. Now he's going back left with the run.
Here you go. To the left it is. Richard.
Here we go. Dick LeBeau's going to come after him.
2nd and 2. Byard rushing again.
And they knew they was coming after him. Great play call.
Lynch returns.
Well, we got a free safety blitz off the edge. He changed the play.
The give is to Lynch. Up the middle. And push back short by a yard. Now what do you do?
Well,
4th and 1.
If you're running the ball on 3rd and 3, that's telling me you're going for it on 4th down. That's the only reason you would run that right there.
It's Lynch. They got him by the ankles for a moment. He fights for it.
Take a look right here, Jim. If he comes downhill, they're going to throw this fade down at the bottom. If not, see if he does it.
It's Cyprian stepping up. In the pass, you had it, Tony, and it was off the hands of Cooper. They were looking that way. It wasn't the fade, but Cooper ran a different route. But that's what Carr read, just like you did.
Yeah, you're reading. You're running a fade or a slant.
So
that was amazing.
It really was.
It was so funny to watch.
You could tell how much he knows about the game.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, like you take it for advantage, seeing him as a quarterback and not really knowing how much work he's put in. And I know, like me being a Cowboys fan, I know how much work he's put into, being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, he was a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys for 12 years. So to me, like seeing this is just bringing joy to me that everybody else gets to see what he can do and how smart of a football player he was. And I mean, it was remarkable to have him. And I know CBS is pumped to have him in the booth doing what he's doing.
Oh, it's amazing.
So overall, I thought that was pretty funny. I knew you thought it was funny. I thought it was awesome, and I thought he did a great job in his first time in the booth. Everybody thought that he's not going to be that good. I mean, this guy blew it out of the water. I have a few more clips that we'll bring up in a little bit, especially J.J. Watt. But we'll get into that when we start talking about injuries. But we'll actually get into the injuries right now. So being that we're going to talk about fantasy, we might as well get into the big injuries that we had yesterday. We still have 2 games. One is playing right now. New Orleans Saints took a 3-0 lead with 8 minutes left in the first. So we have the Saints-Vikings, and then we have the Chargers-Broncos later on. But for right now, all the injuries we had yesterday on Sunday, the biggest one, obviously, is everybody's number 1 pick in your fantasy draft, David Johnson. The word is he had a dislocated wrist, and he is going to miss an extended amount of time. And when it comes to drafting him number 1, I fall in that category. In our running up the score league, I had the first pick For some reason, I don't know how I got it, but I picked David Johnson. Now, what do we do for all these people that have David Johnson, that took him number one? What do you do?
Well, right now,
where do you go?
Right now, if you look at the waiver wire in most leagues, the one guy that pops up to everyone's attention is Tariq Cohen.
Yeah.
Now,
the human joystick.
Well, he was unbelievable. And, I mean, he trucked someone like almost twice the size of him. I mean, it's impressive, this young guy.
He had 5 carries, 65 yards, and he had caught 8 of his team-leading 12 targets for 47 yards and a touchdown. I think he rushed for, he rushed for 66 yards and then had, catches for 47. So this guy, it's kind of tough. We were talking about this obviously in our pre-show meeting as well. When you have Jordan Howard, he could be a one hit wonder. What do you think? How do you feel he's going to be? Do people actually take a flyer on Tariq Cohen?
Well, right now, Jordan Howard still got his rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
He's still the guy there. Now, it sucks for Jordan Howard owners.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy that's going to vulture your passing down work. And, that's the kind of situation it is right now. And if that's the best possible pickup in the league right now, then, that sucks. I mean, I'm a fan, and I've always been a strategic person when it comes to the waiver wire and fantasy football. I have the number 1 waiver in the league, and I have no intention on using it this week. Nelson Aguilar was unbelievable. He had a great game. I saw a guy catch a 45-yard catch because he broke a single tackle that most corners are going to tackle. And he had a decent game at best. Another big pickup is Tariq Cohen.
Yeah.
Good player. Jordan Howard's still there. So what are you expecting to get out of this? Not much. I'd rather wait for another injury. Kerwin Williams. I mean, if you could tell me who's going to start Kerwin Williams or Andre Ellington, you're a genius, because it's Kerwin Williams' show if the Arizona Cardinals have a lead.
Yeah.
If the Arizona Cardinals don't have a lead, it's the Andre Ellington show. So take your choice.
The way that Carson Palmer played, and
Carson Palmer could come out next week and be superb, and we have no idea of knowing.
No, I know.
When
he
struggled
game. Last year, though. Struggled last year, and now losing his top weapon, that usually helps him. Obviously, for every quarterback, no matter how good or bad you are, the quarterback's best friend is a good running game. And losing the best running back in the league, it's kind of hard. Now it's just Kerwin Williams really has to step it up for the Arizona Cardinals. But do you take a flyer on him? And I don't know. You can also go.
I personally would not take either one of these guys. I mean, one could emerge, but right now the view I'm getting is that Kerwin Williams will be the main guy.
Yeah.
In running back situations, in situations where they're from behind and they need to throw, it's going to go to Andre Ellington. So this isn't a workhorse. Once again, we talk about no workhorses in the action. Now, Cohen is a different example. He could be like a Darren Sproles type player. We've always seen Darren Sproles find ways to be successful. There's no doubt.
No.
But for me, there's not a single person on this waiver wire. If you're desperate, go for Cohen. But if you have David Johnson and you're desperate, you might want to be starting to look at a trade. And if it means trading maybe your big-time quarterback or your starting quarterback to try to find a way to grab another mediocre running back, then all the power to you. You're in desperation mode. You just lost the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. You're going to have a hard time. I'm in a league where I have him as a keeper in a crazy round, and I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out what to do to make up for it.
Well,
because I leaned on him a lot.
Another guy on the waiver wire that if anybody drafted him, I don't know what you were thinking, but Javorius Allen from the Baltimore Ravens. Danny Woodhead had a non-contact hamstring injury. Did not look good at all.
Again, Terrence West show.
That's what I'm saying. It's just
like
we were saying. We've been saying when we were talking about it. What was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? we were saying that, there's not many. Like, running back is a very crucial position to draft in your fantasy draft early, because when you start to get past number 10, there's not many running backs that are workhorses. And when you look at all of these guys, Javorius Allen,
and all those
he's going to
guys
split
can
carries
have-
with Terrence West.
All those guys can have bad weeks, just like they can have good weeks, like Cohen did.
I mean, a perfect
Cohen
example.
had a great week. I could see Cohen coming out next week and putting up a 6.
A perfect example is
Le'Veon Bell week.
is the New England Patriots. You had Mike Gillisley had a 3-touchdown game, but now you'll probably have this week. You'll have James White end up scoring 2 touchdowns. Gillisley have 30 yards.
Well, if the New England Patriots are down by a lot, guess what? That's exactly what's going to happen, unless the ball goes down to the 1-yard line.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it comes down to the fact that, you basically you don't have a good option in the replacement of David Johnson. I mean, hopefully you drafted a third option. I mean, that's what you need to do in these
That's the
leagues.
thing. Like,
a lot of these teams and a lot of guys that do fantasy football, and in the early stages, you just started doing. A lot of people want the Bradys and they want the Rodgers and the Brees and even the Peyton Mannings from years ago. They're great to have, and they're going to do very good for you for the most part. I mean, from what happened to all these quarterbacks this week was just you don't see this a lot. For Matt Stafford to be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football week 1 is just scary.
Yeah.
Okay, no Big Ben, no, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys, nowhere to be found.
Well,
but my point being is that you need to grab depth in every fantasy football league you've ever played because of situations like this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, I thought I drafted depth when I drafted Allen Robinson and Kevin White, but I lost them both.
Yeah,
but
Kevin White.
Listen, this is the NFL. This is what happens. Guys get hurt. This is football. It's a very violent sport.
I'm actually glad that I drafted Allen Hurns, because now,
Well, I'll be honest. I don't even think Allen Hurns is the answer in that situation. I think Marcus Lee is a very, very good young wide receiver. I think he was going late in a lot of drafts. You're not even going to see Marcus Lee on a lot of draft boards. A lot of people drafted him. Very smart draft pick. Personally, I don't understand it because I didn't see Allen Robinson getting hurt, and I thought Allen Robinson was going to be a very, very good player this year. But
you're gonna have overreaction Monday, obviously today. Kenny Galladay is gonna end up going somewhere. So
I drafted him.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Because of his preseason appearances?
Because of Matthew Berry.
Well, I mean, if you watch the preseason, he was solid in the preseason. He's a solid wide receiver. So what he did yesterday didn't surprise me. I didn't draft him, but I'm sure I could pick him up on the waiver wire. Austin Hooper, another, and we said it, 2 weeks ago again when we were talking about fantasy. Tight end is another position. I think running back and tight end are the hardest positions to draft, because once you get past that top 3, top 4, there's nobody left. And I think people are going to definitely reach on Austin Hooper. Definitely reach on Austin Hooper.
Austin Hooper had an 80-yard catch. I mean, let's be honest with each other. When Austin Hooper gets an 80-yard catch, I mean, what are you really expecting next week? I mean, the guy had 2 catches.
He had 2 catches for 128 yards.
I've never been a believer of a 2-catch performer to be a waiver wire add.
Exactly.
I'm one of those that have always been a fan of targets. A big reason why I loved Allen Robinson this year is, despite the one great year and the one bad year, this guy had 150 targets in both seasons. Now, you want to put a guy that gives me 150 targets in the 6th round to draft, I have no problem doing that.
Well, especially if it's a PPR as well.
Exactly. So I've always been a big believer. You need a lot of targets. Jameson Crowder, you guys, folks at home worrying about that guy had 7 targets. It just didn't work out that way. It happens.
So how many people actually pick up Alex Smith on the waiver wire?
He's potentially a good option.
Yeah. I mean, who knew that he was actually going to have that type of game, especially against the New England Patriots? I mean, he did not play Alex Smith type football against the New England Patriots.
Well, you can't play Alex Smith type football against the New England Patriots. You're not going to come out of there a winner.
No. But, one of the things right now, one of the top, wide receivers that went, in the draft, early in your drafts, was Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is having a lot of drop problems. And that could potentially be a problem for your fantasy team.
Absolutely. I heard a stat last year about Amari Cooper. Now, Amari Cooper had a great year last year.
Yeah.
There's no questioning it. A great year, great numbers. He was 0 of 8 from inside the 10-yard line last year. And yesterday alone, on one drive alone, 0 for 3.
Well,
so, I mean, listen, this could just be a mental thing for him right now. He went 0 for 8.
Yeah.
And Michael Crabtree was 3 of 7, 4 of 7. So it just makes you show that maybe the possibility of Crabtree being more of a factor in the red zone than Amari Cooper is starting to become more and more realistic, despite the fact that Amari Cooper's got a size and weight.
I mean, if you listen to our, Tony Romo broadcast before, the one play that he called a safety coming in on a blitz, and Derek Carr throwing a fade to Amari Cooper because it was 1-on-1. Amari Cooper ran a slant, wide open. Ball hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it.
I saw it.
That's an easy touchdown.
Absolutely.
Easy touchdown. And that's the problem when it comes to Amari Cooper. And it's not just this year. Obviously, it's only been one game. But he's been having these problems since, joining the NFL. And that is definitely going to be an issue for you if you drafted Amari Cooper. And I kind of wanted to stay away from Amari Cooper, to be honest with you. And I did. Obviously I took running backs early, and I took tight end, somewhat early. But I wanted to have my running back and my quarterback set. That's it. And then I filled in my wide receiver core. But he's definitely a problem for some of you fantasy teams. Nelson Aguilar, if he has a game like he did week 1, this is the problem. This is why I called it overreaction Monday, because people are going to see the numbers that these guys have put up, and they're going to go, "Oh, I need this guy. This is perfect for my bench. I could bring him in whenever I need." But I can guarantee you some of these guys.
Alshon Jeffrey was being. I watched that game. Okay. And
so did I.
Between you and me, there was a play in that game that I'm still mystified about.
That he didn't come down with that ball that he went up.
That Kirk Cousins legitimately threw a ball into like a defender, and they called it a fumble. And
I saw that.
You saw that play?
That was a big. That was a big play.
That made no sense, and why that call wasn't overturned. To this second, it's one day. To this second, I still don't understand that play. I don't understand the call, But when we get into that game, I watched it, and Alshon Jeffrey was being blanketed all game. So Nelson Aguilar is the number 1 target for Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
I don't need the number 2 target for Carson Wentz's offense. I just don't.
Yeah.
Against the Washington defense that we all know is garbage.
Well, that's the thing. It's one game. It's one game.
Oh, I'm not going after Nelson Aguilar at all.
No, I know. Everybody has.
I have Allen Robinson in 3 different leagues. That again, the waiver wire for me is not the answer. For any standpoint. I mean, Cooper Kupp I would like, but a lot of people drafted this guy.
Yep.
So he's not an option. But he would be someone that I would consider with a waiver pickup.
Absolutely.
But Nelson Aguilar, it's a different situation.
Yeah, I mean, just overall, the waiver wire that they have here on NFL.com, they had Tariq Cohen, number 1, Javarius Allen, number 2, Kerwin Williams, 3, Austin Hooper, 4, Kenny Galladay, 5, Nelson Aguilar, 6, Charles Clay, 7, Alex Smith, 8, Chris Hogan, 9, Alan Hearns, 10, Ted Ginn Jr., 11.
Ted Ginn, huh?
Yeah, Saints. But, I mean...
Because I know Willie Snead for a couple of weeks. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm okay on that. I mean, I'm just one of those where I'm not...
But, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to pick up some of these guys on your waiver wire, and they're just... After this week, you're not going to hear about them. They're going to put up maybe 3 points a game. So, you should, especially in your case, you have the number 1 spot in the waiver wire. You could wait a little bit. Wait a few weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks to see what some of these teams are actually going to, what some of these players are going to actually do. Wasting your number 1 spot on a guy that's probably not going to pass 10 points per week, it's a problem.
Hey, listen, if Jordan Howard got hurt yesterday, then Cohen is 100% an ad.
Yeah.
But it's just a different scenario. I mean, Jordan Howard is still healthy, folks. And I'm going to wait for Jordan Howard to go down. But, I mean, obviously he'll be on a different team at that standpoint. But I'm not one of those where I'm going to pick someone up. They're going to be splitting carries with somebody. It's just not worth it. And as a wide receiver situation, you don't really usually ever bag up a wide receiver or a clutch wide receiver. I would put him at wide receiver number 2. You're not going to grab any wide receiver number 2s. You're going to grab wide receiver number 3s and flex options. But you're not grabbing wide receiver number 2 at any point during the season.
No.
You just won't. You're not going to see any wide receivers emerge. All right. I mean, remember Julio Jones went down. Everyone's grabbing Taylor Gabriel. I mean, come on. I mean, Taylor Gabriel. I mean, listen, he had a couple decent weeks, but I mean, come on. And it was in the best offense there was, but you're not going to just pick it up and just put up crazy numbers like that. Step in and then just make plays like that. I mean, it's just that's how the NFL has always been.
I bet you Jacksonville is definitely going to be picked up by a lot of people.
The defense?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the amount of sacks they had
was
unbelievable.
But, some of the other injuries that happened this week, we said Danny Woodhead, we said David Johnson, we also said Allen Robinson. Stephon Tuitt, a day before, signs his extension. I think it was 60-something mil or whatever. Signs an extension, tears his bicep. Out for probably a while, I would have to say. He might miss the season.
Even that corner that got traded to the Eagles.
Ronald Darby, dislocated ankle.
And I just read a report that every single Texans tight end suffered a concussion in week 1.
I know, I heard that too.
Every single one of them.
Kevin White broke his collarbone. He'll be out for the season. This guy, I mean, I feel bad.
I think it's about 18 plays he's played since he's been drafted 3 years ago.
I feel bad.
I know, it sucks.
Reuben Foster got hurt.
Good linebacker, right, from the 49ers?
Absolutely.
49ers, was it?
Yeah. Orlando Scandrick, he broke his hand. He had surgery on it, or will have surgery on it, and he'll only miss a week or two. That's the good thing about being a defensive player. Even if you are in a skill position, like cornerback is, obviously, you break your hand, you have surgery, you could put a club on it. You could put a cast on it. It's not prevalent that have to have both your hands, really. It just makes your life harder.
Yeah, it's useful.
Yeah. And speaking about injuries, J.J. Watt was injured in the game in the third quarter, or in the second quarter. And this is what he had to say in the press conference. I don't know if anybody caught it, but this guy's a psycho.
JJ, how did you feel health-wise out there?
I felt fine. I stubbed my finger a bit, but other than that, my body felt fine.
When did you hurt your hand, your finger?
In the second quarter sometime. Just busted the bone through the skin. Nothing bad. Just tape it
up. Oh, okay.
See my face? I was like, oh.
Okay.
Oh, my
God.
God.
Busted the bone through the skin. Just tape it up. It's all right. Guy's a nut job. I have to say, I commend him for everything that he's done for Houston. I mean, over $31 million. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. But I thought this was funny as well. Before we get out of here, I thought this was funny. Sunday Night Football, obviously Giants and the Cowboys. Ben McAdoo had some, bulletin board material for the Cowboys earlier in the week.
Listen, our focus is on preparing for Dallas, and all backs run the same when there's nowhere to run. So that our goal is to do our job and be prepared to stop the run. And if he's playing, then great. If he's not, then that's great. We're going to play whoever suits up for him.
No way to run. 104 yards. How about what he said about the secondary too? Pretty sure that no-name secondary shut the wide receivers down for the Giants. So, it's funny when some of these guys come out with bulletin board material thinking that their team is great and everything. But overall, I thought it was a great week. It was a great start of the season. It's just tough seeing some of these injuries. I mean, everybody. You had Eric Berry on Thursday.
Last year I felt like was a year that there wasn't really a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And now it's a big difference this year. There's more injuries in the
I think
first
it's-
week than there was in because I had the number 1 waiver in fantasy football last year, and I had a very hard time using that number 1 waiver on a good situation. And we're talking just a simple injury.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's simple. You hear this? Though, but like just one injury where someone else steps in, and it wasn't happening last year, which is good. I mean, listen,
I
they're
think
making the
it's
NFL safer, but
I
all
think
of a
it's
sudden
more-
after 1 week, it's wow.
I think it's more significant players that have gotten injuries so far this year.
Yeah.
When it comes to, Edelman.
Yeah, we forgot about those too.
Eric Berry got hurt on Thursday.
Spencer
He's
Ware.
out for the season. Spencer Ware. And then you look at it, Brian Cushing, concussion. DJ Humphries for the Arizona Cardinals, knee injury. Michael Johnson for the Cincinnati Bengals, stinger, so he should be okay. Ryan Griffin, tight end, suffered a concussion.
Yeah, well, just like the
CJ
rest of them.
Fedorowicz, concussion. It was a rough week in the injury department.
Wow, that
for
Jacksonville
the
defense
NFL.
was relentless, huh?
Yeah.
In every way you can imagine.
Minnesota tied the game up. It's 3-3 going into the second quarter in that game. But how about the Cleveland Indians? 18 straight games they have won.
Wow.
And the Dodgers, 10 straight games they have lost. It's funny because they were talking about how they, right around, when they were having a great part of their season, people are saying that this is the greatest team around. And that easily went down the drain.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
But that will do it for Running Up the Score. We'll be back in the new studio, as everybody can see, on Periscope, YouTube. We'll be in here mostly every week from now on. And hopefully we'll have another host. How about that? What do you think?
Yeah. We'll see.
So we'll see. Hopefully we can get all three of us in. There's also big news when it comes to Tom as well. We haven't brought it up on air yet. We will bring that up sooner or later, once he actually gets into the studio. So we'll hopefully have him next week. But that will do it for the show. We'll come back next week with week 2 and some fantasy news, maybe some more waiver wire talk.
Yeah, if something opens up.
Yeah, and hopefully another Giants loss. But that will do it for Running Up the Score. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin.
Be breezy.
Be breezy.
You've been listening to Running Up the Score.
We run up the score on Sports Radio.